everybody, this is Joe Joseph, and this is the DailySheeple.com's News Shot. Well, according to the San Gabriel Valley Tribune, Kevin Smith reporting more than a third of California households have virtually no savings and are at risk of financial ruin. And I would have to say that just as California is, as is so many times, so goes the rest of the country. And I'm sure that these percentages, if you look across the country, you'll come to find out that they're probably ballpark in and around where California is today. It says more than 37% of California households have so little cash saved that they couldn't live at the poverty level for even 3 months if they lost a job or suffered another significant loss of income. 3 months. I would have to say that probably instantaneously you wouldn't be able to survive. A lot of people out there. 3 months, that's tough for a lot out there, considering what the poverty rate is and how many people live at or below the poverty rate. It says that grim assessment of the 2017 Prosperity Now scorecard is what this is based on. The report was compiled by Prosperity Now, a Washington, D.C. based organization seeking to help people, particularly people of color and those with limited incomes, achieve financial security and prosperity. According to the report, the scorecard shows 46% of households in the Golden State didn't set aside any savings for emergency over the past year, a higher percentage than the national rate of 43.7. Again, there you go, right in the ballpark. It says it doesn't help that 21.1% of California jobs are in low-wage occupations. The scorecard found that 21.4% of Californians experienced income volatility over the past year, a situation that most often results from irregular job schedules. Now, I can tell you that, of course, in California, it's a little more highlighted. The cost of living in California and states like New York and Connecticut are exceptionally high in comparison to the rest of the country. Now, consequently, wages are much higher in California and New York and Connecticut, more so than the rest of the country. But you also have the greatest wealth gap in between those of means and those of not. It's a huge chasm. And you see it the most in the states that have a much more communist way of legislating. California, of course, being extremely left-wing, along with New York and Connecticut. And just as you see in communist countries, you see a very small oligarchy at the top and the rest down at the bottom in a quagmire of poverty. And the whole idea is, well, you know, it's collectivism. Everybody has to make sacrifices. This is what you do. Yada, yada, yada. And unfortunately, communism doesn't work on a macro scale. Never has. You know, communism works on a micro scale, a la a commune. Somewhere where you can have accountability all the way through. Somewhere where that sacrifice is appreciated and spread equally throughout the population. Something that's not happening once you get into the millions of people like California, the 7th largest economy in the world, where you have, again, this great chasm between the haves and the have-nots. Now, for households of color, it gets worse. There are nearly twice as likely, they're nearly twice as likely to live below the poverty line as white households, 18.2% compared to 9.7%. And they're much less likely to own a home or other assets that could help boost their long-term financial stability. Less than half of California households of color own homes compared to 62.5% of whites, non-Hispanic households. More than 60.7% of Latino households and 56.7% of black households have virtually no savings and are considered liquid asset poor, compared to 28.2% of white households fitting that category. Now, also in that category, you have the high cost of housing. Because housing costs so much, very, very difficult to be a homeowner in these states. States like New York and California, where you have not only high property values, but you also have extremely high property tax. in California, in New York, I can speak from experience. A house that we had in New York, we were paying $16,000 a year in property tax. And believe me, it wasn't a huge house at all. But it just goes to highlight, compared to the rest of the country, it was downright egregious. You know, and that's the big thing. On a $500,000 house, you're paying $16,000 a year in taxes. Basically, over $1,000 a month tacked on to your mortgage payment. It's unbelievable. And a $500,000 in New York or California doesn't get you a whole heck of a lot of house. Certainly not like it would in other states. So while you can see, and it's highlighted a little more in these extremely left-wing states, this is happening all over the country. And it's not going to get any better. And eventually, all of this happy action fun time in the stock market and everything else, people are going to have to pay the price when the powers that shouldn't be decide that it's time for a transfer of wealth. See, everybody's fat, dumb, and happy right now and feel confident putting their money in the stock market, a la the Great Depression. You know, the little man was so proud in the 20s to be able to say, I'm a stock owner. And they were lulled with a false sense of security into investing into the stock market, only to have the haves take everything from the have-nots. And that, my friends, is what's going to happen again. Why? Because that's what's happened in the past. I'm Joe Joseph. This was thedailysheeple.com's News Shot. Feel free to comment below and visit our website at thedailysheeple.com. Have a great day.